as well as DSTV channel 372. That is where you can catch and the only place you will catch 24/7 business information, business news, business updates within Uganda, in the region and in the globe as well. So make it a point to stay tuned on Smart 24 TV, where we drive your business. Now, into the Nairobi Stock Exchange. But before we do the Nairobi Stock Exchange, I would like to just clarify something. It is important for us as a region in East Africa to grow our capital markets, and in particular, the stock market. Why is this very, very important? The oldest exchange, that is Nairobi, has a very well-established trading facility, and it is one of the fastest growing sub-Saharan Africa economies. And so we see that as a means of growth, one must have investments, and these investments are supposed to benefit both the public and the companies, as well as businesses and startups and so many other people within the business world, banks, stock brokers, and all these other people that come together within the stock market. And so if we are to grow our economy, if we are to produce more within East Africa, if we are to make sure that we have enough money in our pockets to run our businesses, to take kids to school, we must open our eyes to investment. We must educate ourselves. We must grow in our investments. And one of the key factors that affects the growth of a country is the weakness or the strength of the currency. And of course, there's so many factors that do affect the currency or the strength of a currency. However, one of them is how the people within the country are using that currency. One of the ways you can be sure that a currency can appreciate is through very ardent investments. If people within a country are investing, and these investments are bringing returns, if they're putting money to use, if they're adding value to money, you're almost 100% sure that there will be some resilience within the currency. Of course, keeping other factors constant. So I want to urge you, my brother, my sister, watching from home, make a choice today. Start your journey of investment. It doesn't matter the age. Of course, you must be of a consent, the age of consent, at least 18 years. You must have a national ID, and that is all. And definitely you need a source of income, because this is one way you're going to actually tap into the investment opportunities, using your income to see that you actually get more money off that. Isn't it that? I think that's a very beautiful analogy there, for you to see that you're bringing on board some money from your income, from your salary, and you're using that money to grow. You're using that money to add value to yourself and to add value to the money itself. Now, let's move to Nairobi. Nairobi Stock Exchange is the principal stock exchange for the Kenyan nation. It began in 1954, and it was established with, of course, within the East African community, and that all companies within the East African community that made it on the exchange were quite valuable companies, very good companies, big companies, if we can say blue chip companies. However, in around 1977, most of the companies were nationalized back in Kenya, in Uganda, in Tanzania. So that kind of led to a decline. However, the stock exchange has grown with time and has seen different seasons. The bourse that is based in Nairobi is currently, of course, under the jurisdiction of the Capital Markets Authority of Kenya, and this Nairobi Securities Exchange operates under the jurisdiction of this regulator, and it's governed by a 11-member board of directors. And in 2014, interestingly, the exchange demutualized, consequence to a successful initial public offer to raise over 627 million Kenyan shillings. The NSE, after demutualizing, got listed officially on its exchange. So meaning, one special feature of the Nairobi Stock Exchange is that it is listed on its exchange, which is a very, very beautiful thing for an exchange to actually list on its own exchange. It encourages confidence amongst investors. It brings about transparency within the exchange itself, and definitely gives a good example to other companies as well. In 2008, in order to provide investors with a comprehensive measure of the performance of the market, the Nairobi Securities Exchange came up or launched the Nairobi Securities Exchange All Share Index, and this index is a market capitalization weighted index. Of course, indices can be price weighted or they could be market capitalization weighted, meaning if you're tracking performance of, for example, the Dow Jones, maybe you're looking at companies that are listed on the NASDAQ Composite in the United States. You don't want to look out for Apple, Amazon, and so on. You just want to have a look at the NASDAQ Composite. It gives you a whole picture. And this is an example of a market capitalization weighted index. And when we talk about the market capitalization, we are talking about still the total value of the shares. That is the share price multiplied by the outstanding shares within the company. So the All Share Index for Nairobi is a market capitalization weighted weighted index, meaning they depend on market capitalization of firms. So if there is movement, for example, in price for Safaricom, which is one of the most, if not the most valuable companies on the stock on the stock exchange in Nairobi, it will definitely have very much influence on the Nairobi Securities Exchange All Share Index, more than a smaller company, let's say Unga, which has a smaller market capitalization. Now, the Nairobi Securities Exchange All Share Index was launched in 2001. However, it is a market capitalization weighted index based on a best value of 100 points as of January 2008, comprising of all the listed securities and effectively the benchmark index for the Nairobi for the Kenyan stock the stock market in Kenya. In 2011, there was still another advancement within the Nairobi Securities Exchange after the Financial Times Stock Exchange in London International they joined the Nairobi Stock Exchange and introduced the FTSE NSE Kenya 15 and the FTSE NSE Kenya 25 indices, which are designed for the creation of index tracking funds and derivatives products as performance benchmarks while ensuring their investability. Now, the Nairobi NSE 25 measures the top 25 companies. When you look at yesterday's trading, the All Share Index went down, and when you look at the participants, we had over 47 participants who participated in the trading, ending the day with only 16 gainers and over 20 losers, meaning there was an average decline in performance. And when you look at the index, it just portrays that. The index went down by 0.42 points. And that was a 0.29% decline in the daily performance of the points. And the points closed at exactly 143.63 points, just below 150 points. Now, when you look at the aggregate performance since the beginning of the year, the index had a very strong point during the beginning of the year. That was in January 2022, well above 150, between 160 and 170 really during that time. However, due to several investors pulling out of the market, of course, due to uncertainties surrounding the Kenyan election, we saw a decline in the points all the way from 160 to 150 all the way down to below 125 points in the month of July. However, following the recent election of a new president in Nairobi and the successful election and petition that was, of course, done in the courts, we see that now the index is returning to normalcy and it's coming back to over 150 points. Much as yesterday, we registered that decline to close the day with 143.63 points. In terms of 1 week performance, the index gained. This is evident of the 4.56% increase on the 1 week basis, so we're still seeing an average overall good performance. In terms of 4 week performance, the index lost just 3.48%, whereas in terms of year to date, the index has lost an overall 13.72%. Other remarkable indices that performed well on the exchange, the NSE 20, tracking the top 20 companies on the Nairobi Securities Exchange, declined by only 0.83%. That is on a daily calculator, and then 1.91% in 1 week, and 5.79% in the year-to-date performance. While the NSE 25 for the top 25 companies also declined by 0.54% yesterday in a day, and 3.43% in a week, and 10.02% year-to-date loss. They're generally not so good performance, depending on how you see it. And when you look at the traded volumes, at the end of the day, we had a total of about 10,367,100 shares that were traded on Nairobi Securities Exchange in over 1,098 deals, corresponding to a market value of over 288,458,257 Kenyan shillings. There are over 200 Kenyan shillings, really. And we've seen the Nairobi Stock Exchange reach over 500 million, 600 million on just a single day of trading. So still in terms of the turnover, we're not seeing still much activity, and probably we might need some improvement within today's trading. Compared with the day before, there was a 2% decline in the volumes that were recorded, an 11% improvement, however, in the turnover, and a 17% decline in the number of deals. And the current market capitalization of the entire Nairobi Securities Exchange is currently 2.24 trillion Kenyan shillings. And as I've mentioned already, over about 47 out of the 65 listed equities participated in the trade of the trading yesterday. And when you look at the gainers, we had 16 gainers and over 20 losers. Amongst the gainers, Centum Investment Company came out on top after leading the gainers by over 4.69% price appreciation, and closing the day with a price of over 10.05 Kenyan shillings. Now, when you convert that to Ugandan shillings, that's roughly 300, and that's exactly the price of Centum Investment Company Limited here in Uganda. So you can see that the stocks are actually correlating with each other here on the Uganda Securities Exchange and on the Nairobi Securities Exchange. For the CIC Insurance Company, you're seeing and also an increase of over 4.39%, closing the day with a price of 2.14 Kenyan shillings. And then Longhorn Publishers gained by 3.01% and closed the day with a price of 3.76 Kenyan shillings. Whereas when you look at Olympia Capital Holdings gained by 2.96% and closed the day with a price of 2.78 Kenyan shillings. Ever Ready came in as a gainer at a 2.53% price appreciation, closing the day with a price of 0.88 Kenyan shillings. And yes, I can stop there. Those are some of the gainers we can pull out. However, on the losing side, we had more losers. And the losers, the bottom loser was Total Kenya. Total Kenya came out last with an end-of-day price depreciation of over 8.91%. and closing the day with a price of 23.0 Kenyan shillings. Umeme Limited closed the day with a price depreciation of 8.75% and closed it at 7.3 Kenyan shillings. And then we had Stanbic Bank, Stanbic Holdings at a 6.75% decline, closing the markets at 93.25 Kenyan shillings. Whereas when you look at Slum and other couple of other companies there, they were still on the losing side. Samia, Bamburi Cement, and so many others. Now, in terms of volume, Safaricom, as usual, recorded the highest volume of about 3.07 million shares that were traded yesterday, and followed by NCBA Group at exactly 1.86 million shares, whereas I&M Holdings traded over 1.55 million shares, and Bamburi Cement traded about 1.07 million shares. Now let's look at the top gainer, Centum Investment Company here. Let's look at his history and break down this performance and see if we can explore opportunities on Centum back on the Nairobi Securities Exchange. Centum Investment Company, public limited company, is an East African company that deals in investment, and it helps investors to access their portfolio of inaccessible and diversified investments. The company is headquartered in Kenya, but also operating in Uganda and Tanzania. And the company invests in sectors including the real estate, fast-moving consumer goods, and other financial services. Centum's business model currently focuses on the companies in the sectors. Number one, the growing domestic and regional markets targeted at household levels and private businesses. Number two, it focuses on products and basic goods and services whose demands increase as purchasing power increases. And number three, it also focuses on products and services with a limited scope for import substitution. Now, Centum operates through four major market segments. Number one is the growth segment, which represents the trading subsidiaries or investments that have progressed to the cash generative stage. Number two is the real estate segment. And when you look at the real estate segment, it comprises of all the group companies involved in the real estate development, such as the Two Rivers, Vipingo, and Pearl Marina. Number three, you're looking at the development segment. Now, when you look at the development segment, it includes all the companies whose businesses are still in the establishment and ramp up phase, such as those in the power, education, and the agribusiness sectors. Number four is the marketable securities segment, which focuses on the investment of funds in quoted equity and fixed income securities as well. Now, Centum is listed on the NSE with the ticker symbol CTUM, and currently is the 21st most valuable stock on the Nairobi Securities Exchange and constitutes about 0.299% of the entire equity market on the Nairobi Stock Exchange. When you look at yesterday's trading, Centum closed the day at a price of exactly 10.05 Kenyan shillings after having shed off over 4.7, after having gained over 4.7, and that is from 9.6 Kenyan shillings. Centum, however, began the year with a price of 14.1 Kenyan shillings and has since lost over 28.7% of their price valuation, ranking them the 60th on the Nairobi Securities Exchange in terms of year-to-date performance. Centum Investment Company is the 10th most traded on stock within the last 3 months on the Nairobi Securities Exchange, and that's from the 10th of June to the 8th of September 2022, and has traded within just this period over 11.6 million shares, and that is an average of about 184,517 shares per trading session, and a volume high of over 2.09 million shares, which was achieved on the 27th of July within the same period. That is Centum Investment for you. Well, very good trading volumes, the 10th most traded. And in terms of year to date, a very poor performance of over 60, ranking it the 60th out of the 65 equities. And so you can gauge and see, like I said, you must be rational when you're investing, and you must have a reason to invest in a company. So Centum is there, and you can see if you can invest in it across the Nairobi Securities Exchange. That brings us to the end of the Nairobi Securities Exchange stock. You can visit their website for more information, and you can also access their Standard Bank, Crested Capital, and so many others, so as you can buy some stock on Nairobi Stock Exchange. We are taking the last quick breather, and we'll return with our final segment, and we are looking at some of the top stories on the financial markets scene, and we'll be back shortly. Stay with us.